Hello, is this thing on?
Do you think they can hear us?
Nah, let's say it again. Hi, and welcome to the Gritty Nurse Podcast, an unfiltered discussion related to health and healthcare. My name is Amie,
And my name is Sara.
and we are your podcast hosts.
If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon, or any other podcast listening platform, don't forget to subscribe so you can get updates to when we have our latest episodes. Also, don't forget to rate and review us.
And if you like what you're hearing and you love our advocacy work, don't forget to go to www.grittynurse.com and click on the donate button.
As little as $1 or $2 a month for a total of $12 a year will help us with our monthly podcast costs, such as website hosting, our hosting platform,
audio equipment, and the time and energy it takes us to put out good quality episodes. We thank you and we appreciate you. Hi and welcome everyone. I am super excited this week for the guest that we have today. Her name is Ashley Bartholomew. She is a trailblazer, actually one of the first nurses I remember seeing in the media talking about her experience in the ICU, and it kind of blew up. It went viral, right, Sara? And I'm so happy that she'll be here today to talk to us a little bit about her experience, but we don't want to keep the episode too heavy. We want to keep it light, and we'll have a little fun game at the end. But Sara, do you want to kind of take it from here?
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on today. We have been following you on Twitter. We know that you are quite active on social media, which is another thing we love about you because Amie and I have been really encouraging nurses to get out there and get on any social media platform. I feel like Twitter is the place to be right now, and we're so glad that you're kind of a thought leader and you're really just being a trailblazer, like Amie said. So I'll actually let you introduce yourself to the listeners. If you could tell us a bit about yourself and your journey as a nurse.
Hi, I am Ashley Bartholomew. I'm a registered nurse, RN, BSN, and thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. I feel so honored. Yeah, like you said, I'm on Twitter. On there, I'm the Blonde RN. That's where you can find me, and all of my. It first started. I just thought like, oh, this is like my diary, but it's like so, now I'm like, wow, it's my diary for 16,000 people to read. So, or anyone else wants to.
Well, maybe Ashley, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into getting into nursing. What did that all look like?
So it's interesting. I've had like an interesting journey, like so many of us have, right? When I was 18, I joined the Air Force and went into active duty, and came from not a well-to-do family and didn't have a lot of options for college, and just wanted to make sure that I was kind of mature enough to get good grades in school. So did 4 years of active duty, and when I was my job, I was a dental assistant in the Air Force. And when I was stationed overseas, I got to work in surgery, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I got to learn how to do Foleys and IVs and stuff, and that's kind of what inspired me to be a nurse. And after I got out of the military, I got accepted to nursing school and got a scholarship. And but I was still a little nervous, like maybe I don't know if this is for me. I didn't know any nurses. So what I did first was my LPN program. I don't know what they're called in Canada or if it's the same.
We call them RPN, so registered practical nurses.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So it was a 1 year program, and I thought, okay, if I hate it, then I just only wasted 1 year. If I love it, I can keep going. And sure enough, I loved it, and it worked out for me. I kept from there. I did my RN with my associate degree, and then did my bachelor's degree. And maybe when I figure out what I want to be when I grow up, I'll do my master's degree.
I love it. It's such an interesting journey that we all take. And I think with us speaking to more and more nurses, we're finding people that are choosing nursing as a second, third, or even fourth career. But it sounds like for you, it was a gradual process, that you got yourself into. And I just wanted to know, how you got into ICU nursing and what that sort of looked like.
So that's interesting. I'm not a formal ICU nurse by any means, and so I was thrown into the COVID ICU
Right.
because I was in OR at the time, and when COVID hit El Paso, they shut down the OR. I had been a nurse at that point for like 9, almost 10 years. I had so much experience compared to some of my colleagues who maybe 1, 2 years of nursing experience or had only worked OR and had never done inpatient bedside. And so I did end up going to the COVID ICU, but I was kind of more like a buddy nurse. So basically, I got to do like all of the regular nursing stuff, and then the super critical things, delegate that back to the ICU nurse. But at that time, they were tripled and quadrupled, and so really a nurse that could do all the nursey stuff
Mm-hmm.
was very beneficial. And then
Right.
also, I would have more critical care experience when I worked PACU at the level 1 trauma center I was at, because we'd have ICU holds a lot of times. And so, you might have
Mhm.
a patient that's vented with multiple drips and stuff like that. And so I've kind of dabbled, but I've never been like just full in the ICU as my formal job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can kind of, because maybe not everybody knows you like we know you
Yeah,
in terms of the Twitter world, but like maybe walk us through just a little bit of what it was like. Because I mean, right now, we know that you're no longer in that role, but I saw a tweet from you just recently that was like the numbers now in Texas are surpassing the numbers in New York. So maybe just a little bit about like your experience and kind of how you kind of, I guess, where you are now today.
Yeah, so today, now, it's interesting. I did retweet that because unfortunately I moved from Texas to Florida, and both places are just a hot mess. I mean, like the chaos cloud is just following me. So yeah, we moved from El Paso to Florida about a month ago, and Florida isn't doing so well. I mean, all of the hospitals in it was interesting because I jokingly said, "Oh, I just got my Florida nursing license this week." And sure enough, not a few hours later, I'm getting all these calls and emails and stuff for like crisis nursing COVID jobs in Florida. And, all in the area, the hospitals are all, on divert status and full and having massive staffing issues and stuff. So I'm like, wow, I just moved here. That's like a lot. I'm like, wow.
No,
Maybe I'll
like, it's
just
like you jumped right out of from the
I'm not
pan
really
into the
sure.
fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's different now, which is like, this is heavy, right? We said we wanted light and peppy, but man, is it different now to think of going back into that overwhelmed state of working where you are unable to give the care to the level that we all expect and that we all want, and what, our data is based off of. We know if we do X, Y, and Z, we get this outcome for patients. And when we're missing those things, as census goes up and as acuity goes up, the outcomes are different.
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
is a different feeling for me now than it was in November when I was faced with the surge and there wasn't a vaccine, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
oh well, these people they happened to get COVID. This happened, and it wasn't completely, not preventable to the point it is now. And
Right.
now it's a little different. It's a little harder for me to really grasp that this was a choice that so many people made that has overwhelmed our system yet again. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a little different.
Wow. I mean, it sounds really, really interesting, everything you've gone through, from being thrown into the COVID unit to where you are now. I actually read a tweet from you, I think it was probably back in December, where you had talked about how you had a COVID patient, and of all the patients on the unit, he was the only one who was actually able to speak.
Mhm.
And you explained to him how well he was doing and how lucky he was because nobody else was able to speak. I'm assuming they were intubated and, really not doing well. Just based on that experience, like, is there anything else that you wanted to share that was unique sort of skill that you built working in such an interesting and stressful environment? Like, what did you take out of that, like in terms of learning?
I think there's a perception from obviously non-medical people of like what an ICU looks like. There's kind of this mystery and about it, and we're not thinking of just the day-to-day actions that are really hard that we all take for granted. If someone has on a BiPAP and it's forcing air, just for them to take it off, just to take a sip of water is an entire ordeal. They have some people still get the GI symptoms with COVID, and what that is like when you're, stuck in a bed and you're having diarrhea and, you have to get 5 other people all gowned up to try to turn a patient. Just the nuance is hard, right? To express how the acuity is so much more work than just your regular non-COVID patients. And I think I just learned that firsthand when I saw, just the busyness and stuff when we had the crisis nurses on the way, but there was like a lag before they got there. You could tell they just needed all hands on deck, and you could see the system becoming very overwhelmed.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're still facing the same challenges here. Again, like you said, it's a different ball game. It's a different level in terms of understanding that, like you said, that there are vaccines. There's a different way to do things. But I'm gonna diverge a little bit because I don't want to get into too heaviness with COVID.
Love
We
it.
talk about COVID a lot on our podcast, but that's not what I want to do all this whole time while I have you, because I think that you're a really exciting and fun person. I want to kind of talk about some of those aspects. So actually, I might actually jump into our Never Have I Ever nursing edition with you.
Oh gosh.
And we can maybe do like a little bit of storytelling as we kind of do this Never Have I Ever. But I mean, my first thing to say is, okay, so I'm going to assume that the answer is going to be the same for you and for myself and Sarah, but never have I ever went home with gauze, cotton, or tape in my pocket.
Oh, I think every day.
Oh my gosh. I think this is the one thing maybe non-nurses don't know about nurses. Like, we are pack rats in terms of the stuff that we keep in our pockets, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think I've washed so many alcohol swabs. Like, I'm like looking in the jar. I'm like, what is that like balled up thing in the lint trap? It is alcohol swabs, or cotton, or 2x2. So I guess you probably have the same experience. What about you, Sarah?
I have something kind of interesting. So because I used to work in the NICU, I often kept like baby diapers in my pockets. Have you guys ever washed a diaper accidentally? Because it is disgusting.
Yes.
Like all those little beads that are stuck in the diaper, they just like come out everywhere.
It's awful.
And I think that I had to wash everything again because I thought I could just throw it into the dryer and it would come out. It did not come out. So I've done all of that plus the diaper, which I will never do again. And luckily the diaper was clean. So that would have been doubly worse if it wasn't.
Oh no, yeah. Like, I've seen, it's like the little gel pieces, right? And they just probably get everywhere.
Yeah, I definitely did that at some point when I had my oldest was like a toddler and I had newborn twins. A diaper definitely got washed somewhere within those early years.
Oh yes, you have the twin life too. Oh my gosh. How old are your twins?
I have a chaos cloud. It follows me. They're 4.
Oh my goodness. That's such a fun age for them too.
So I'm at a good spot now.
How's your house so quiet?
I know. They're asleep.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I understand that twin mom life. Sarah, do you want to take away the next Never Have I Ever?
Absolutely. Okay, so never have I ever blown an IV.
Oh yeah. One of my first jobs in nursing, I worked in the ambulatory infusion center, which was a cancer center, but also other people who needed infusions. We did IVs all day, every day. And you would think I was like good at it quickly.
Oh man.
This is a lesson for all you nurses out there, just try and try again. Eventually you'll get it.
Yeah. No. Don't try and try again. We have a rule and we must adhere to the rule. It is you try one, you mess it up, go get someone else. I think the attempt is supposed to be 2 attempts and then you get someone else, but I'm kind of like,
if I screw it up once, I'm No.
Yeah, like I get that feeling. I don't know if you guys get it. It's like all like you blow it and you're like, you're trying to like wiggle. And you're like, oh, I gotta like thread it in there, and it's like you've blown
Oh,
it.
sometimes
And
even before you start, but you have to at least attempt the one time, right?
right, and then you start feeling hot, and I'm like, and then I take it, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get somebody else to do this for you.
I will say that just reminded me of something I totally forgot about in the COVID ICU, wearing all that crap and then being sweaty and starting an IV on someone and getting it the first time. I was like, yeah.
And of course, no one's there to see it, right? Like you have no witness but yourself.
Yeah, I know. It's like there's nobody around. I'm like, come on, I need somebody in here to see this. This is awesome.
Oh my
So I
god.
was just happy I didn't have to take off all the stuff and go get more supplies.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like I remember actually being a new nurse, and that was, I don't know why, it just wasn't a part of my, gather your supplies. And I think they say it all the time. And I was always that nurse that like I put on all my PPE. Let's say it was like an MRSA patient. I go into the room and I'm like, I've got nothing. I've got nothing that I need.
And you're like, did I actually step all the way into the room yet? Can I still turn back, or is it too late?
You're like, did I touch anything? Oh no, it's still a patient environment. So you're like, and lots of times where I'd hit the call bell and this nurse would come running into the room and I'm like, I just like need the urinal, or I need an eye, and they just give me this look. They're like, Amie. And I'm like, sorry. I'll do better next time. All right. So, never have I ever thrown up at work.
Oh yeah, I've thrown up at work.
I have to. I've got a story for that one.
Mine was just the regular pregnancy nausea throw up. It wasn't because of anything particularly disgusting. Although I think you guys might have better stories than me.
Mine was definitely in nursing school. So like I mentioned, I was a dental assistant before and thought, oh, well, I've been in 4 years of patient care. Well, we wore masks as dental assistants. And then it
all the time, right?
And there were all sorts of smells. And I mean, I was just, and I'm like a sympathetic puker. So if I hear someone retching, I'm like, me too. And I've gotten better over the years. But then when I was pregnant with my first one, there was just, I just go find a random trash can, puke.
Like, Ashley's in the bathroom. Don't worry, we're covering her patients.
Yep.
Like my experience, and this was actually maybe like 2 years ago. I was working as an educator at the time. I went down to the cafeteria because I always loved. Oh no, sir, you know this one.
I know this story.
I always loved their fish and chips.
Oh gosh.
So you probably know where this one's going. So you get the fish and chips, and then they give you, what is it? It's
a tartar sauce, right?
The tartar sauce, right? So I don't know about you guys, but as a nurse, I eat fast. Like I don't hold back. I open my lunch and I'm like, like I just swallow everything down, right? So I remember as I'm eating like the fish and chips, everything was like hot, but so was the tartar sauce. It was like warm. So I'm like, you know what, whatever. I'm hungry. This is going down. I've got like 5 minutes. So I like gobble everything up. I get back to my desk. And, like I feel fine, right? And by about maybe, let's say like 45 minutes, you get the bubble guts, like, it's like and I'm like, oh, what is that? Like, what's going on? And I'm sitting there, I'm sitting in the office, I start sweating a little bit. I'm like, oh, it's hot. Maybe I gotta like open a door, open a window. I didn't have any window. So like open my door and I'm just like, oh, I'm really sweaty. I think I went to a meeting. I was just like, no, I'm sick. I'm gonna vomit. So I like vomit, and then I end up having to like call. I had to call this other nurse to help me because I was like super sick, and there was nothing more embarrassing than like I'm vomiting now, right? Oh, she got me from like, I can't remember what meeting room it was, but they got me a wheelchair because like I was so sick. So they're wheeling me, like, this hospital had like back hallways, but the back hallways all had like nursing staff, whatever. So I remember her like wheeling me through, and all these people are watching me. I'm like, ugh, and I'm like, I'm okay. She like wheeled me up to Aug Health, but it was it was horribly embarrassing, and it was definitely the tartar sauce. Like I had, I then like I spoke with the people in like food services. I'm like, this happened. They're like, oh yeah, we had a couple reports today too. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, so definitely had that opportunity to vomit and go home early.
Yeah, you went all out on the vomiting at work.
Yeah, it was not good.
You win that one.
All right, I'm going to ask the next question. So, never have I ever found an unidentified stain on my scrubs.
Oh. Always. Like, I mean, I was in OR for a while, so we wore hospital scrubs, and then the couple of times I've been in PACU, depending on the hospital, sometimes they make you wear the OR scrubs and sometimes not. And I mean, even just changing at work out of the hospital scrubs, I'm like, wait, what is this? Like, when did I touch something purple?
That color?
Yeah, you're always.
Yeah.
Sarah, what about you?
Well, I guess with the increased PPE these days, it's better now. But like, I remember running like IV meds and, you know, like dealing with baby poo. And I look down at my shoes and I'm like, it's brown. Like, I don't even know if this is like dried blood or like meconium or the Venifer IV infusion I ran earlier. Like, I don't even know. And we always did the baby baths on the unit, which was fun. But sometimes unexpected things come out of either end. And if you're not wearing a gown, then you're done. So I know Amie and I did an episode about gross things that happen at work. This is why you always have to keep extra scrubs if you don't have those hospital issued scrubs like in the OR or in L&D. You gotta have that.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
I took it like a step further, and I started keeping like an extra like bra and panties in my locker.
Oh, that's smart.
Because I've been completely soaked before in all sorts of bodily fluids, and I'm like, now I'm changing into more scrubs, but do I wear a wet bra or do I go without a bra?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So yeah. I keep an extra set of everything in the locker because I mean, it's rough out there sometimes.
It is, and that was my L&D experience. Like they're like, bring extra socks, extra panty and bra, because I learned the hard way. I remember my first splash of amniotic fluid, and it was a splash. Like, I didn't think it could go that far. This doctor's like, all right, I'm gonna just break your water. I'm standing because I'm eager, right? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I want to see this baby time. I'm standing close, and he popped her sack, and it went everywhere. And I just remember like it was on my face, my glasses. And this is another weird thing about L&D. So, although we get splashed with fluids, you think like in the OR, you might have a face mask or a shield. Yeah. Not an L&D. So I remember getting splashed, and I was just like, oh. And then when I stepped into my Crocs at the time, but I don't think people wear Crocs anymore, but I had Crocs, legally so too, because I know we weren't supposed to wear them, but all of us were like, yeah, we're gonna wear our Crocs when management's not here. We're gonna put our Crocs on. So I remember just like stepping in my Croc, and it was like squish. And I was like, oh man. I was just like, oh man. And yeah, I did end up going sockless. You know what I ended up doing? I know this is ghetto. The booties?
You made your socks out of booties?
So I was just, I rinsed off my Crocs because, they're like that styrofoamy material. And then I just put on like the blue socks.
Did you tape them? Because that would have been extra ghetto. Tape them so they stayed up?
I actually did, because you know how it works, right? Like they're kind of loose. They're supposed to go around the shoe, so I had to use it as a sock. So I taped. I just used a little bit of the
medical
white tape.
Yeah.
Worked wonders. But then from then, I always brought extra socks, extra bra, extra panties. You need to protect yourself. Only one time. So if you nurses are listening out there, it only takes one time. Don't be us. Learn. All right, so I think I have the next question. Never have I ever given a fake name.
To a patient or a family member or anybody, have you given a fake name?
No, I don't think I ever have.
I haven't either, but Amie, I think you have a story here to share. I don't know this story.
Yeah, so I did. And this was a long time ago. So it wasn't when I was like actively as an RN, it was when I was an RN student. And I was working in mental health. I actually had someone who was just maybe a little bit too close, right? We were doing like outpatient mental health, and he was very chatty, he was very nice, great guy, right? And I remember him kind of, he followed me out one day and he's like, and I think as a student, sometimes maybe you divulge a little bit too much information. And I think I gave way too, like, just trying to be nice and start conversation. Cause mental health nursing is different. Like you got to build that therapeutic relationship. But I think I didn't go about it the right way. And I guess after the conversation, he took it to like a different level where he was just like, do you want to make babies? And I was like, okay, we went from like talking about just, nice days outside to, asking me if I want to make a baby with you. And I was like, so I actually did give this patient like a fake name. And this is like, we had our student ID badges, and I remember just like covering mine with tape. And I was like, yeah, my name's like Susan. I don't look like a Susan, but I was like, I just gave him a fake name. I was like, yeah, I gotta protect myself here.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys, though. Do you guys ever, or did you ever cover your last name with something? Because this is something that I've noticed a lot of nurses do, because they don't want patients to know their last name, or they don't want family members to look them up. Like, have you seen that or heard of that before?
I have seen that before. I don't know. I guess I kind of, if someone feels the need that they need to do that, I guess I'm supportive of that. Whereas on the other hand, I see it as just being a patient myself. Why don't you want me to know your whole name? Be a little nervous as a patient because, obviously we know the physicians' last names or advanced practice nurses, they commonly use last names too. And so I kind of see both sides. I've never worked in an area where there's like high security issues, mother baby or ED, that type of stuff, or, mental health. And I can see where those areas might feel more inclined, or, there's so many different scenarios. I've never felt the need to do it, but I could see where people do.
Might do it,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually remember doing it because other people did it, but I was in mother baby, and you do get some of those complex situations where you're on alert because like a family member might want to come in, and they're known to the community, they're known to the police, and they do arrive, and you're like, ah. So I have had those situations, but again, I don't know if it's similar to the States where we have through our college body that you can find a nurse. Like you can just, if you know their first and their last name, you can actually go to this database and find the nurse. And I think the only thing that it makes me hesitant about that is, just for nurses' safety, let's say they have issues in their own life where, maybe they have an abusive spouse or whatever the case may be. You can look them up and find out where they work.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I agree that the patient does have the right to ask you what your full name is or whatever the case may be. So before we go, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. And I know it started off heavy, but I told you we're going to bring it full circle and have a little bit of a
I
laugh.
love it.
But but one of the questions I have for you before we go is, what advice do you have for nursing today? What advice do you have for our up and comers? Because one of the things that we're seeing here is there are a lot of people that, even though we can have fun, we could talk, we could talk, laugh, there are a lot of nurses that are scared and that are still scared. And, we had a whole situation here where we had nurses in their last year of education, they didn't get to do clinicals because, because of COVID, they couldn't get into the hospitals. They did virtual clinical, and that would have been scary. But what message or what piece of advice could you give any of our new nurses that are listening today, coming into this situation right now?
Oh, that's hard. But no, I think you just have to, for me, it's just trying to remain, open-minded and flexible to changing environments. Things nursing is always going to change, and it's going to change. I mean, for me, I've lived in, I don't know, 7 or 8 different states, and I've worked in several different hospitals where, a level 1 trauma center is going to be very different than small little 60-bed community hospital in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. And And I think that varies from the different areas that you work within nursing too. You know, I've worked in oncology and I've worked in surgery, and those are very different different vibes. And I think when it feels right, it feels right, and when it feels wrong, there's other things to do. And I think is like, as a new nurse myself, even I remember being just scared of like, just every shift was like, oh no, I'm going to make a mistake. And, you know, we all do. And it doesn't mean that it's like the end of the world. You can still find your rhythm. You can still find the place that you're going to flourish. It's just getting there and still having that confidence to learn from your mistakes and find the right environment for you, is what I think is really kind of like an empowering feeling.
Oh, I agree. I like that. And I think that you've definitely found your voice. I mean,
Whoop.
I encourage other nurses who are out there. Sorry. Did you say you don't know about that? I feel like you have. No, it's good.
No,
It's all
that's
good.
what we need.
Right? And I mean, I encourage other nurses, if you're on Twitter, to find the blonde RN. She's great. She's an expert. She's got lots of good things to tell you and share with you. So please find her and look her up. Do you have any other handles that we could find you on? Like, are you on Instagram or anything else?
I made an Instagram, but I go through little spurts where I use it and I don't. But I think it's the blonde RN and then _Ashley on there.
Okay.
But I'm mostly on Twitter, the blonde RN. That's where you can find my micro diary. But yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me. This was so cool. I want to like hang out every Sunday night and like, can we hide in our closets and have drinks?
Yes, we should do that next time. Drinks are always allowed on the Gritty Nurse podcast.
We should fully have like an episode of like the nursing edition, and we all have like, maybe we do a Never Have I Ever, but we like make it a little bit harder. And it's like, if you didn't, have a drink. That episode will be tons of fun.